The time is 2:03 p.m. We're on the record.
So, Mr. Lakewold, Undersheriff Lakewold, I just want to remind you, you're still under oath. All the admonitions from the beginning of the deposition still apply. Do you have any deposition testimony you'd like to change at this point?
No, sir.
I am going to drag you back through a small portion, hopefully gently, of Exhibit 5, and then we can move on. I think we're done with exhibits at that point. Just one more quick question about that.
Certainly.
So I'm showing you Exhibit 5. Do you see that on your screen?
Yes.
All right, moving down to page 3 of that document. This comment from Mr. King about constitutional sheriffs. Mr. Leighty responded, or I guess replied to that comment with his own comment, again bringing up Craig Johnson, kind of tying Brian King's comment about constitutional sheriffs into some new information that Leighty was bringing up about the Second Amendment, and then tying that into the Craig Johnson shooting. At the bottom of that, Mr. Leighty wrote the following sentence: they later claimed Craig had a gun. Despite the gun they claimed he had was absent any fingerprints, DNA, or dirt, even though Undersheriff Lakewold said Detective Madden kicked the gun through the dirt. So I have a question, given that we've gotten into this issue about the factual truth of stuff. I wanted to ask you whether it is true that when you were on scene for the Johnson shooting, you saw Detective Madden kick the gun through the dirt. Is that true?
No.
Oh, that's not true. Okay. So do you know anything about what Mr. Lee is talking about at all here?
We don't have a Detective Madden. There's a Deputy Madden, and he was never on scene for the second incident, which was the scene that I was on site of, where Mr. Johnson was shot.
Okay, so was Madden on scene for during the first encounter with Johnson?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any issue with, or any allegation that the weapon that Mr. Johnson had being kicked through the dirt that you're aware of at the second encounter?
I can't recall how the gun got moved. I think that I can't recall verbatim what I stated, so I don't recall exactly what happened, but I seem to recall that I mentioned something about the gun, Mr. Johnson's gun, getting kicked aside or moved aside with a foot, or it was kicked out of the way, and so I recall making some mention of that.
And that location where the kicking you observed occurred, was that a place where, was that like on what was that location?
It was I'm sorry, go ahead and state your objection again.
Just object to the form.
It was on privately owned property up in the Priest Lake area. I don't know the address. It was a
Right.
Silver Lake property.
Yeah, let me be more clear. I'm not interested in the address. I'm interested in whether that was outside or inside, whether that was a place where dirt might be, or whether this was like on like a paved concrete parking lot, or where was this?
Outside, and yes, there was probably dirt, foliage. It was outside.
And this would have occurred in September of 2017?
Yes.
All right, so at that point, it's not common for the ground to be frozen in that part of Idaho.
Fortunately, no, not normally.
Not normally. Okay. So is what, he's incorrect apparently about who you attributed the kick to, because Detective Madden wasn't present. And it's Deputy Madden anyway, but the wrong person here that Leighty's talking about. But it is true that you, Undersheriff Lakewold, said that the gun that was associated with Mr. Johnson during the shooting was kicked in a place where dirt may well have gotten onto it.
Yes.
All right. Let's talk about blocking Mr. Leighty. I do recall you saying that you don't recall any conversations about that you were not involved with those conversations at the time that Mr. Leighty was blocked.
Not in real time, no.
Okay. Help me understand the not in real time caveat there. Were you involved in conversations at another time?
Well, I heard about it after the fact. I'm sorry for perhaps misleading that, but I didn't hear about it prior to or during that I recall. I think I learned about that at a later time. So I learned about it, but I wasn't involved with that discussion.
Shortly after it happened, or more recently with respect to this litigation?
Shortly after it happened.
All right. To your knowledge, who was it that benefited from blocking Mr. Leighty from the Bonner County Sheriff's Office Facebook page?
Check to the form.
I'd say
Would as well, but object to the form.
just about everybody would. Well, I'm sorry, can you restate the question? Make sure I'm clear on that.
Yeah. Who benefited from blocking Leighty from the Facebook page?
I don't know.
Did Bonner County Sheriff's Office benefit from it?
Same objection.
Potentially.
Did the public benefit from it?
Same objection.
Potentially.
Did Mr. Leighty benefit from it?
Same objection.
Potentially.
Okay, gotta follow up on that one. How did Mr. Leighty benefit from being blocked?
This is a stretch, but when you perpetuate misinformation about people, the potential exists that they could be subject to litigation themselves. So if somebody chose to challenge his perpetuation of misinformation, or I'm just going to call them lies, then yes, he could potentially benefit from not being able to do that on that platform.
So you have gone to the point now of saying that what Mr. Leighty is saying in some of those posts was lies.
Yes. My opinion.
So
I should say my opinion. I better clarify that. That's my opinion. Yes.
So if I understand you correctly, Mr. Leighty benefits from essentially being deprived of the ability to commit defamation.
Object to the form.
A stretch, however slight, but potentially.
Okay. To your knowledge, has anybody taken any legal action against Mr. Leighty?
No.
Have you heard anybody ever discuss doing so? The possibility of doing so?
I don't recall who, but I think that topic has been mentioned before.
Okay. Thank you for letting me know about that. You said that you don't recall who. Do you recall the general context? Like when that conversation would have occurred, where that conversation occurred?
No,
You recall it being from one of the officers involved in the shooting?
I think it was, I don't recall.
Could it have been Wheeler himself who said that?
No, I think I would have recalled that. No.
Okay, so everybody benefited from blocking Leighty. Everybody potentially benefited from blocking Leighty.
Yes.
To your knowledge, who participated in that decision?
Object to the form, asked and answered. Can answer again.
Who participated in what decision?
To block Leighty.
My opinion is that it was Sheriff Wheeler and Lieutenant Van Giesen, or then Detective Van Giesen.
And I understand you to support that decision, although you did so following it already having occurred.
Object to the form, asked and answered.
Yes.
Are you aware of any alternatives to blocking Mr. Leighty that were discussed in order to preserve the interests of the Bonner County Sheriff's Office with short of blocking Mr. Leighty?
No.
And here, I guess I'm specifically asking about just turning comments off rather than, and so that Leighty could continue to participate rather than singling him out and blocking him.
No.
Did it, to your knowledge, have you ever heard any discussions about, at any point, about sort of how pointless it is to block somebody if they can just create a new account and then go in and continue whatever their activity is?
No.
Are you aware that that's the case? Like if you get a new email address, you can create a new Facebook account and you can use like, they call them sock accounts or like anonymous accounts, or are you aware that that's a possibility?
Yes.
So it's only really effective, blocking somebody's only really effective if they don't use an alternative account. Is that right?
Yes.
It only really prevents Mr. Leighty from being able to participate in his identity, in his the network that he has with his friends and family. It only really prevents whatever credibility or whatever, it doesn't prevent him from posting the content. It just prevents him from, as that speaker, being the one to do so. It just prevents that social media account from doing so.
Object to the form.
Yes.
So how does it benefit BCSO if Mr. Leighty can go on and do the exact same thing under an sort of an isolated anonymous account, but can't do so as Jim Leighty?
Same objection.
Alternatively, then we would identify posts that were in violation of terms and use, and deal with them individually or accordingly. But again, that because of how many fraudulent accounts they are, and I'll call them fraudulent because the vast majority of second accounts are not necessarily for good reasons, at least based on my understanding, but which further supports the decision to shut down commenting, because there's no way that we can control additional accounts, fraudulent accounts, and all the other reasons stated.
That information to you regarding the use of fraudulent accounts, how long have you been sort of aware of the use of fraudulent accounts in that way?
guessing probably several years. You hear about people either get hacked or somebody starts spoofing their own name, or somebody wants to hide behind anonymity, and kind of put whatever they want up. And so I believe Facebook tries to monitor it. I believe that it's still happens, but that's just my personal understanding of some of that, probably for a few years.
Okay, so a few years ago would have been before Mr. Leighty was blocked.
Yes.
So despite knowing that what you were really effectively doing was encouraging Mr. Leighty to create an alternative account to avoid the censorship, instead of turning off comments, you just singled out Mr. Leighty and without really preventing him from going in and making the same contributions on the Facebook page. Why is that?
I don't know.
Is defeating government censorship a good reason to create an alternative account?
Object to the form.
I don't know that it's defeating. I don't know that it's defeating any censorship. I mean, creating a second account, I don't know that defeats anything. If what you're saying is still a violation of the terms and use, and so you just don't either know who it is accurately, or you think it's somebody else. I don't know that that's defeating that, but I'm not, hopefully I'm answering the question, but I don't really know how to answer that.
Well, I want you to accept the premise of the question. So let's say that through creating an alternative account, I'm able to defeat government censorship. Okay. If we assume that's true, is that a good reason in your mind to create a so-called fraudulent account?
Object to the form.
No,
Why not?
because I don't believe that's defeating government censorship.
I see. So you're disputing the premise. So let's use an example. So let's say I have a Facebook account and Bonner County Sheriff's Office blocks me as Braden Pence from writing on your page, but I'm able to go and create an alternative account using my middle name, Cyrus Pence, and I'm able to get an alternative account and go on and post the exact same content on your page. Is that a fraudulent account, first of all?
Object to the form.
I would have to, I don't know if that's fraudulent or not based on Facebook's assertion of what fraudulent accounts are, but I'll go with, you used enough of your name, that's probably not a fraudulent account. It's you, and you've identified enough of yourself.
So I've created an alternative account to go around government censorship. Is that a good reason to create an alternative account?
Same objection.
That's based on how, if they want to, I guess sure.
Well, I'm using your words because you'd said that there's lots of not good reasons why people create these accounts. And I'm wondering if this reason would be a good reason in your opinion.
You're asking me to put myself in the shoes of somebody that would be creating that account. If that's their desire, then, and they are successful, then it's probably a good reason. I don't know how to necessarily answer that.
I don't know either. I'm just, you introduced the idea that people do this for bad reasons. And I'm trying to understand if those bad reasons, in your opinion, include doing it in order to avoid government censorship. And I don't think I'm going to get an answer from you. I'm going to give you another chance. If you want to right now to say yes or no, that's a good reason, that's fine. But I'm going to move on at this point because I have give you an opportunity to answer this question. If you don't want to, I'm fine with that.
please make no mistake about it. I'm not trying to avoid the question or not answer the question. I think we're answering and asking two different things. I believe that any circumvention of the system to, so if you've been blocked by, we'll just go out on a limb and say you've been blocked by, John Doe, and you have create another account to circumvent that and either spy on John Doe or post on John Doe. And granted, I recognize there's very different rules for John Doe and for the Bonner County Sheriff's Office, but I believe that that would be a nefarious reason to create an additional account. The vast majority of the accounts that I was referring to would be for fraudulent purposes, to buy and sell, and basically to fraudulently extract money or information from people. And so in a nutshell, that's not so nefarious. However, it's still creating an additional account to circumvent something that's already in place. So yeah, I hope that better explains it. I'm certainly not trying to be difficult, that's for sure.
Before I move on, we're fairly close to the end. I do want you to know there's a light at the end of the tunnel, okay?
I'm fine.
Before we move on from this, you had testified that if you were to do, like, I think you used the word investigation, if there was someone who was using an alternative account to avoid a block by the Bonner County Sheriff's Office, and you could take some action. I think you used individually or in some other fashion. Would you please tell me a little bit more about that? How would the Bonner County Sheriff's Office establish that an alternative account was avoiding a block or hiding? I guess not hiding, but a block specifically.
I think in most cases, it would probably be very difficult to make that determination. So about the only way I could think of is if that alternate account exposed itself by committing violations of the terms and conditions, and it was dealt with individually. If there was some obvious signs, then I guess those would be perhaps explored and reported to Facebook. But I don't believe that would be an easy investigation, or not an initial. At a glance, it would be difficult to identify if it was a fraudulent account or not, or a second account, or whatever you want to call it.
So I'm pulling up for you right now, Exhibit 10. We were looking at this earlier. Do you see that on your page?
Yes.
So this is texts, and these are not, you had clarified these are not you. This is, it appears to be with Mr. Van Giesen and probably the sheriff, if I were to guess, but the bottom of the text says, "Good morning, John. Looks like JD has another Facebook account. At your convenience, can you please remove the John Sicer Blount account from the assessor post? Thank you." You see that?
Yes.
Is there, I'm going to put it to you that John Sicer Blount is actually a totally different individual who lives in Eastern Washington, who also commented on the Bonner County Sheriff's Office page, and apparently was censored because the Bonner County Sheriff's Office mistook Mr. Blount for Mr. Leighty. Is there anything that the Bonner County Sheriff's Office does to prevent its attempt to target a particular individual from, like, censoring other people?
Object to the form.
I don't know.
Who would know?
Well, there's no formal way. I don't know how that particular one got identified. It's, again, it wasn't, I wasn't involved in that. So there's no formal method of identification for that, or policy, or otherwise.
you'd use the term investigation. What sort of investigation would occur in order to allow BCSO to be confident in taking action against another account on the basis of its association with a third party?
Same objection.
I don't know.
Okay, so you were personally involved following the initiation of litigation in this case with directing Mr. Van Giesen to resume or to close comments rather. Is that correct?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
I'm just trying to bring us forward in the timeline. We're talking now about after litigation's been initiated,
Yes.
there's this conversation about an injunction. The county agrees to the injunction. As a part of that, there is the comments are shut down.
Yes.
Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay, were you involved in that?
Yes.
To the form.
Okay, so what was your involvement in that?
Just basic discussion about the ability to manage the comments that come in for any reason, and our ability to manage them, monitor, react to, respond to, accept information from, etc., is almost non-existent. And so my suggestion was when in the conversation, it was a, I believe, just a hallway discussion, or maybe even a sit down in an office, but it was a very light discussion about whether we should have commenting on at all. And so, yeah, it was I was, I guess, involved in the decision to shut comments off altogether. It was certainly I agree with it.
Who else participated in that discussion?
I
Those
believe-
discussions.
I believe just the sheriff and I, but I'm not, I could be wrong.
Okay, and please summarize what the substance of the conversations was. What did you all consider in terms of whether or not to do this?
Asked and answered. You can answer again.
So like I'd mentioned early on that we have postings that have lost vulnerable adults. We have postings that are runaway juveniles. We have postings that a suspicious vehicle, for example, and on those postings it has a phone number for our dispatch center, the non-emergency phone number for our dispatch center, and in those postings, people with information are directed to call that. Historically, we've found that people want to circumvent making the phone call because it's, I'm only speculating, easier for them to type in something on the post. We aren't able to monitor those in real time or deal with those in even, in real time, as in, maybe not even for 12 to 24 hours will we see any of that information. So it's provided an opportunity for people to think that they're getting their information out when in fact they really aren't. And so shutting comments off altogether has people, if they want to be helpful or if they want to engage in that the finding the lost person or runaway or whatever, they can call the dispatch center and provide that information or whatever numbers listed for who they should contact. Alternatively, we share posts. Well, I think we've shared posts from other agencies, and we certainly don't have any involvement in what their information they're seeking is relevant to either. And so it takes all of that off the table, and then we don't have to monitor vulgarity, and we don't have to monitor other violations of the terms and conditions, and so it's a all-inclusive opportunity to take some man hours off the table that can be utilized for what they're really, what their job really is, and for not giving people the expectation that there's any real-time exchange in the information that they post.
The hallway discussions you're referring to with Sheriff Wheeler occurred within a very short period of time, shortly after the initiation of the lawsuit and the motion for an injunction. Correct?
Objection.
I don't know. It's probably within that time frame. Some point. I don't recall either of the dates.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect you to recall the date, but I mean, the Bonner County Sheriff's Office is involved in how many civil rights lawsuits presently?
I think this one, we might have something in the jail that I can't, well, no, this one for sure. And council could probably help answer if we have any other jail related ones, but this is the only one that I can think of right offhand, but maybe one still outstanding for detention. No, it's not the jail. That was a patrol situation that I don't know the status of specifically. So probably two.
Okay, how many injunctions is the Bonner County Sheriff's Office subject to presently?
One that I can think of.
Okay, so that's why I'm sort of asking about this, not in the context of the date. I don't care about the date. I care about the initiation of the lawsuit and this injunction, which you were dealing with and which you were dealing with the response to, specifically closing down comments. The decision to close the comments occurred within the context of it as a result of the lawsuit and the injunction, correct?
Object to the form.
Yes.
Okay, so all the discussion about vulnerable adults and the timeliness of responding to those issues and the vulgarity, those aren't really germane to the lawsuit or to the injunction. The injunction deals with the violation, the alleged violations on off-topic and personal attacks, right?
Object to the form.
Yes.
So would you agree with me that the reason that you turned off comments was as a consequence of Mr. Leighty's lawsuit?
No.
Object to the form.
I think that's it. Congratulations, sir. You're done with me. Ms. Yakeley, do you have any follow-up questions?
I had no questions.
Wonderful. Well, let's go off the record.
Okay, this concludes today's video recorded deposition of Undersheriff Ror Lakewold. The time is 2:36 p.m. We're off the record.
Thank you, Mr. Lakewold. I really appreciate you answering my question.